This week on Under the Radar, I thought we'd get into the Christmas spirit by examining the phenomenon of snowflakes. No, not those type of snowflakes. These ones. Don't call us snowflakes, it damages our mental health. Say, snowflakes. Now I know what you're thinking, is this an Onion article? No, actually it's from the UK Telegraph. Being called a snowflake is damaging to mental health, young people say. Figures show that the majority of young people think the term is unfair, and even more think it could have a negative effect of its own. The Snowflake Generation is a disparaging term now commonly used to refer to young people who are perceived to be oversensitive and intolerant of disagreement. Now, where would you get that idea? But research by insurance firm Aviva found that 72% of 16 to 24-year-olds think the term is unfairly applied, while 74% think it could have a negative effect on young people's mental health. Oh well, if research says so, it must be true, especially when that research is based on people's feelings about themselves from an insurance company that has a vested interest in a vibrant mental health industry. So obviously if you're not a snowflake, then it's not fair to be labelled as a snowflake. But more often than not, it's the snowflakes that are applying labels unfairly. Milo is a white supremacist. Lindsay Shepherd is a white alt-right, ethno-nationalist white supremacist who associates with Nazis. We need trigger warnings on university reading lists because something might be offensive. I need a safe space so no one can challenge my beliefs. This is why you're called the Snowflake Generation. You're weak and intolerant, but not all. There are plenty of young people that aren't, and they're on university campuses actively challenging this nonsense. The figures also show that young people are more likely to have experienced stress, anxiety, and depression in the last year. Yeah, I wonder if that has anything to do with a society that consistently caters to that mindset. And here are the numbers. You can see that young adults, defined as being between the ages of 16 to 24, report higher levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. But what do those definitions even mean? You were stressed out before an exam? Were you anxious about a job interview? Yeah, let's pathologise everyday interactions. The firm's medical expert, Dr. Doug Wright, said the term could cause problems. Our findings suggest that young adults are more likely to be experiencing mental health problems, so using a phrase which criticises this age group could add to this issue. Could it? Well, that's me persuaded. Any term used disparagingly to a segment of the population is inherently negative. Yeah, or perhaps it could make them more resilient, wanting to fight back against that characterization. The phrase, which originated in America, has particularly come to refer to universities and students who use trigger warnings to alert readers or listeners to potentially distressing material, and safe spaces which are meant to be free of certain opinions or ideas. It is also used to imply that young people are less resilient than older generations and quicker to take offence. Imply? You just gave us two reasons as to why snowflake is an appropriate term. And university snowflakes are giving us new reasons every single week. If the shoe fits, wear it. This to me sounds a lot like that completely discredited Ban Bossy campaign from a few years ago. By completely misrepresenting data, the Ban Bossy campaign claimed that girls are less interested in leadership by middle school because they're called bossy and their parents have higher expectations for their sons. That claim in and of itself should have been enough to set off the bullshit detector. If you want to know why it was nonsense, check out Christina Hoff-Summers' video on the topic, link in the comments. My point here is that it is an attempt to control language. Don't say negative things, even if they're true. But look, if someone's acting bossy, then it's perfectly acceptable to call them bossy. If someone is carrying on like a snowflake, then calling them a snowflake is an appropriate description. The best way to ensure not being called a snowflake is not to act like one. It's pretty simple. Now, there is no distinction here by gender, which would be interesting because it seems there's a spike in anxiety, particularly amongst young girls. Jonathan Haidt recently talked about this with Jordan Peterson, blaming it in large part on social media.
So iGen, Internet Generation. This is Jean Twenge's work. You know, we used to think that the millennial generation ends in 1998 or 2000, but Jean Twenge shows, looking at 4 large data sets, that birth year 1995, kids born in 1995 and after are really different. Their values are different. They have much higher rates of anxiety and depression, especially the girls. Boys have gone up, girls have gone way up. And the reason seems to be that Facebook lowered its age. So in 2005, you had to be a college student at a certain number of colleges to get Facebook. In 2006, you could be any 11-year-old who lies and says that she's 13 and you've got a Facebook account. But then you're using it on your parents' PC. And in 2007, the iPhone comes out, and it saturates the market faster than any consumer product ever has. So by 2010 or 11, a lot of adolescents have Facebook and other social platforms. And this is just devastating, especially to girls, because it's not texting. Texting is just me to you, you know, that's back and forth. That's fine. That, you know, when we were kids, you called your friends on the phone. That's fine. The problem seems to be, according to Twenge, it's especially platforms in which you put something out and then you wait and see what everyone says about it. And that especially is damaging to girls who already are at risk of eating disorders and image disorders.
Okay. So girls become more susceptible to negative emotion when they hit puberty.
Well, yes, that's right. That's always been the case.
But then there's another issue too with regards to female aggression. So, you know, it's clearly the case that males are more likely to be physically damaging / aggressive than females are. But what females use is reputation savaging.
That's right. So that's Nikki Crick's work. Nikki Crick passed away a couple years ago, showed that if you add it all up, boys and girls are equally aggressive. But the boys' aggression is more physical, the girls' is more relational. So if you imagine a bunch of 13, 14-year-olds in their middle schools, and then you parachute in a whole bunch of iPhones, everybody's got one in their pocket.
It's an amplifier.
What are the boys going to do? They're going to play video games. And that doesn't hurt anybody. But the girls are going to use it to amplify the social interactions. So this is Twenge's explanation. I think it makes a lot of sense. So it's a catastrophe, it's a crisis, and we're really hurting, especially the girls.
And last Monday we got an example of this from Australia's favourite leftist echo chamber, Q&A.
Being a young Muslim female Australian, I have been on the receiving end of many hurtful, discriminatory comments. This hate was perpetuated by the US President Donald Trump, who retweeted anti-Muslim propaganda, with a 78% increase in hate crimes against Muslims in the US in 2017. What do you believe is an appropriate response as individuals and as government organisations to the President's constant spreading of racist and Islamophobic messages?
Now, is anyone really surprised that Trump retweeted something without checking the source, in this particular case from the far-right British First Party? But with that said, so what? What do you want the Australian government and politicians to do about it? This is a perfect demonstration of the mindset of the snowflake. Because Trump tweeted something that offended me, I need an authority figure to do something about it. But it gets even better.
Well, frankly, I think it's amazing that on this country's predominant current news and current affairs program, we're talking about Trump's tweets. I mean, there's been a massive...
Well, they almost destabilise the relationship with the United States and Britain.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't.
The Prime Minister has been involved. Trump then retweeted comments by her berating the British Prime Minister. So I think it has reached a level beyond
undermining a relationship between the United States and the UK, frankly, is ridiculous. And I would much rather talk about the $1.5 trillion tax package that's just passed the US Senate, that's being debated at the moment in the House.
Yes, but that is,
I think that's an extraordinary piece of legislation.
With all due respect,
absolutely.
That's not the question that was asked. It's not the question that was asked.
I understand that. I'm saying it's extraordinary that the one thing that we're plucking out of the United States at the moment when it comes to news and current affairs is what he's tweeting. Please, can we talk about something of substance?
We've got a hand up here, so we'll get a microphone to you. Go ahead.
So I would just like to say, though, that the fact of the matter is that those tweets, they are continuing to have after effects in our society, which is why we're discussing them. I mean, young girls are being, they're having vitriolic statements thrown at them because of tweets that are happening in a different continent. So, of course, that's why, a current affairs, program is having this discussion, because Australian citizens are being affected.
So Simon Brenny rightfully asks, why are we talking about tweets? Why can't we talk about something actually more important, like the Trump tax cuts? And the answer is because it hurts the feelings of people like me. But we're not done yet.
You want to respond to that in spite of the fact that it's not about the tax plan?
I think it's incredible that Trump is proposing to cut the corporate tax rate from 35% down to 20%. I think that's going to lead to an economic boom in the United
Can I
States.
say, I don't know if you're auditioning for politics, but the question was something rather different.
I think it's a little bit flippant to disregard...
I'm not disregarding.
Well, no, to disregard the questioner and the hurt that it must bring upon them.
That someone else's tweets have on them.
That the President of the United States, you know, the leader of the free world, is targeting a certain group within our society, and that's having effects on the women here that have shared that experience with us tonight here in Australia. That's outrageous. It's terrible. And we can't be flippant about it.
Can I go back to original questioner Zara? Listening to this, obviously you were moved by something to ask this question. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely a struggle when you're living in a society where you think you're welcomed. You think that, you know, the people around you are going to be there. Are going to be there and stick by your side. And then when you hear about people getting, like, international people who are supposed to be there to speak up about you, it's hard. It's difficult to then have to just justify yourself to the people who you thought were standing behind you.
Thank you, Zara.
And there you have it. I feel sad and someone needs to do something about it. Here's a thought. Why don't you do something about it? Stand up for yourself, give back as good as you get, and lead by example instead of asking other people to do it for you. But why would you do that when you're surrounded by a culture only too willing to indulge and reinforce your own brand of victimhood?
Listen up, maggots. You are not special. You are not a beautiful or unique snowflake. You are the same decaying organic matter as everything else.